Thanks so much for joining, Yabing, and welcome to this episode of Women in Sales. I'm really excited to be joined today by Yabing Wu, Strategic Partnership Manager at Deel and Executive MBA candidate at London Business School. Yabing has over 12 years of experience working across consulting, venture capital, strategy, and partnerships in the B2B SaaS world. She's originally from China, now based in the UK, bringing a unique mix of Eastern values and Western business thinking. She's helped companies grow across different countries and cultures, building strong partnerships and promoting inclusive people-first leadership along the way. Today, we'll be diving into her journey, how she builds global partnerships and what she's learned about navigating cultural differences in businesses. I can't wait to get into this. We're going to focus on 5 areas today, by the way, Yabing. But before that, could you sort of go and tell us about yourself and a little bit about your journey before we do that?
Of course. Well, thank you for the introduction and the summary. I think that just captured my career journey in a nutshell, right? In a great summary, one minute pitch. So on that front, I'll probably just share a bit more on my personal journey, where I come from.
Yes.
I was born and raised in China, and I built my career across borders. Moved to the UK 6 years ago, and also traveling a lot across EMEA because of my role and also the opportunity. So I'm really a big believer of global citizenship and also partnership. And I think that's what really motivates me and drives me to go to work every day. So there are 2 main pillars of my career in the last 12 years. One is where I started, is strategy, and that's always my backbone. The other is partnership. And when I think about partnership, it's more than sales, right? Partnership is almost like the GM of the ecosystem. And that's what I feel is super interesting and dynamic from work perspective. And outside work, I'm a mom of 2 girls, and I'm also an avid marathon runner. I've done 17 full marathons and 17 half marathons. Been a runner for 10 years and still continue to run, hopefully until the end of my life. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, fantastic. And when's your next marathon? 17, that's amazing. When's your next marathon happening?
So my next one is a half marathon in Valencia this October. Full marathon wise, I've done 5 majors. So the only one left is Boston.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't know when I kind of do that. The threshold is quite high though. but I like to run just on a like once a year or just once every 2 years in terms of full marathon. But I just keep running, keep fit, and keep my mental sanity as well.
I'm about to say, it must help a lot with obviously being in sales and partnerships, just clearing your mind. I have 2 dogs, so mine's a dog walk more than necessarily running, but I do find that definitely clears my mind. But we'll jump straight into the first key area, which is sort of journey career. So can you tell me a bit about your journey into sales and partnerships and sort of how you ended up at Deel, where you are at the moment?
Yeah, as I mentioned, right, I started my career consulting. I never thought I would go into sales. I ended up in sales almost by accident, because 6 years ago when I moved to the UK, I was just looking for freelance consulting opportunity projects. And then I ended up working for my previous employer, my client back in that time, Thomas International. And then my client, my key, counterpart, for the consulting project was chief sales officer. And I was just doing business development project. And then I discovered, actually, I really enjoy this revenue impact side of business, in addition to the typical strategy, which is more like high level, but it's not really seeing the result, seeing the impact. So I'm more like a result-oriented person, like to see the tangible outcome of what I'm doing. So that's where I discovered, actually, business development partnership could be a good bridge for me to leverage both sides, and also exploring if the revenue or commercial side of the world is something I could do for the longer term. So that's,
was sales or partnerships, was that something you always wanted to do, or did you, like a lot of people, just sort of fall into it, as many of us did?
I think I'm more like falling into it. I think sales as a word has some complex implications when you think about it. So, but in the end, I think when I was in consulting, right, if I look at those senior partners, or at any business, if you look at the CEO, right, the GM, in the end, they're doing a big chunk of the job as a sales, right? Sales in the end is something you need. It's a skill, right, for life, not just for work. So that just makes me think, right? If I really want to go really long in my career, wherever I go, right, in whatever profession I go, this is an essential skill I really need to master to be able to do whatever work I'm enjoying doing. So
yeah, absolutely. And with your journey at the moment, has there been any kind of obstacles or challenges that you've kind of faced on the way to where you are now?
yeah, I think in general, well, we find women in revenue or women in sales is almost like the only person, right? Wherever you go, whichever meeting you're entering to, and like a recent trip, I found I was the only woman most of the time.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm having internal team meeting with my colleagues, I was the only woman. With external partners, I was the only one.
Yeah.
In the room that full of revenue leaders, senior suite, right, leaders, it's all like just women are underrepresented, not just in sales, but in many other functions. But I think that the trend is changing as well, right? So we're seeing more and more senior leaders in partnerships in sales or even in GM roles, right? CEO roles. There are more women, right, in charge. But I think in reality, when you are the only woman in the room, sometimes it's challenging for you to feel comfortable to speak up. In social settings, it's also very challenging, right? Because I don't really drink that much, but I can drink, but not that much. I'm not that really into sports or football, right? What else can I talk about with my male colleagues or partners, right? Other than that, so it's harder. Maybe it's harder to make some connections beyond just business. So I think that's something I find more challenging when you try to build a deeper relationship, because we're just outnumbered basically.
Yeah, and have you got any tips for sort of women in sales who are feeling the same sort of issues and problems? Anything that sort of helps you go deeper on that connection?
I think obviously because I'm a mom, so I find that more almost like neutralize myself as a parent, right? They always resonate well because you're likely working with another parent, right? Regardless of gender, if you share the same identity, or as a runner. I found a lot of sales actually into running or outdoor sports, right? That's another connection. So I think it's really to understand yourself first, and then try to understand what are the common things, right, you could find whenever you talk to your clients or talk to your partners. And also find your allies, right? It could be a male colleague or male partner who are actually really, really supportive. Maybe they have daughters, or they just understand they have sisters. Maybe, right? They support this like what you're doing, right? They support to raise awareness or to build this alliance, this community for women. And in the end, we need to support ourselves, right? So I always like to support any other woman who want to enter this world, right? And to give advice or to build this small community. And I think it's just setting up examples. And think about my daughters, right? The future, right? When they enter into the workplace, where you want them to have, what do they want? What do you want them to have? I think you just like, don't think about your gender. I think that's the ideal world, because everybody should be equal regardless of gender, right? And women also bring to the table more empathy, right? More emotional connections, right? More understanding. We listen more than we talk, which is also a good advantage if you think about everybody's talking and you're the one who's listening, right? And that just makes a difference in the end. So I think really just focus on what makes you different. Not just a woman, but also as a human being, right? What makes you different? What makes you really unique? And bring that, how to say, mentality to every daunting meeting room or environment that you feel like you're the only one. But just think about your difference, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of all this, have you sort of felt that you need to sort of like prove yourself when you are around your peers, because you kind of, like you said, you're in these board meetings and it's mainly men there, and do you feel like you need to prove more or do more?
I think it's almost like unspoken, I would say, rules, but it's almost like the reality we're facing. As a woman, you tend to need to do more to get the same treatment or get the same promotional opportunity as man, unfortunately, and salary as well. If you look at all the like analysis reports that talk about gender, right, inequality when it comes to salary, that's the reality we're facing. And I think in the end, it's just you need more women in the boardroom, more women in the leadership position to promote that and to change that. Some countries, they're doing it really well, right? The Nordics countries, they're leading the pack. Some countries obviously are still catching up. And I think in the end, it's a generational, how to say, initiative. We should all work together.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And it's one of the points around sort of cultural leadership. And you mentioned obviously you're currently in Deel. So are Deel or previous companies you worked at before, how have they sort of been around sort of representing women in sort of senior roles within the business? I can see obviously what your CRO is obviously a woman. So has that trickled down within the business because of that?
I would say that definitely set a great role model and example, and also faith that like women can lead in revenue functions. Unfortunately, I also had in my previous company at Thomas, I had a CRO also is a woman. So I've seen also like sales who are actually top sales in my previous company and my current company, women. So if you're seeing like top performers and sales leaders, they're all women. That just gives you the confidence that women can do really well in this function, right? Regardless of the challenges. And I think we're already very lucky because we're in the people business, because that's what we're doing, right? And especially Thomas as a psychometrics assessment provider, everything we were doing is always about promoting diversity and inclusion, and obviously gender equity as well. So I would say in this specific industry, women in sales or women in revenue are given maybe better opportunity or visibility and also career progression. But it may not be the same in every industry. I know some industries still very male dominated. But yeah, we're getting there, I think.
Absolutely. And is there any advice that you would give your current employer or future or just businesses out there that they could help support women more in the workplace or make them more comfortable?
Well, I think first of all, I think it's just to give more visibility in terms of that project, in terms of the opportunity, I think to all the employees, right? To all the employees, regardless of gender, and probably starting with hiring, which is probably what you're doing, right? Really just remove the unconscious bias from the beginning. Because if you get more male into the world and less female, what you're having, right? In the end, it's just a numbers game in the end. It's very similar thing what I experienced at business school. As you already introduced, I'm currently doing MBA at London Business School. And we were having a huge difference in terms of the gender proportion in the classroom. Many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, it's like 70% men, 30% women. But this year in my cohort, when we joined, it almost flipped. Like we have 60% women, 40% men.
That's
right?
Good. Okay, interesting.
That's great. That's great. That just means there are more women who not only willing and wanting to go to senior position, but also supported, right? Either by their family or by their employer, right? So I think that's a great reflection of how the society has progressed over time. So removing unconscious bias, not only for, I would say, for me, there are additional glass ceiling I need to break, if I'm very honest, because of ethics, right? I'm a minority. I'm not just a woman, I'm also a minority in a country where English is not my language, where the culture is not my first native language, culture background. So there are more barriers for me to overcome as a person. But also I see like how things has evolved. Many years ago, I have to use an English name to introduce myself, to apply for jobs.
On
But now I
CVs,
just be me, right? Because I was told like if you're not using an English name, you basically being ruled out from CV screening.
Yes.
But today I'm getting more and more opportunities just because, right, of my skill, because of my
who you
like
are, what you've
and
done.
who I am, right? What I've done,
Yeah.
my credentials. Not because I'm Chinese, right? That's
Mhm.
that's something irrelevant, hopefully irrelevant, and somehow
It should be. It should be. Yeah. Yeah.
advantage to have, right? If you really think about, because the world becoming more global,
Mhm.
anyone who has worked across culture, work across markets, really understand both sides, they're adding value to global business, right? That should be the way to think about diversity and also the value, because it's not just a token you need to tick, right, to
Yeah.
have DEI, but also having more diverse workforce by gender, by cultural background.
Mhm.
It really actually helps with your business performance.
Absolutely, and having a more diverse workforce is beneficial for everyone at leadership and obviously further down the ladder. So with your current sort of position at Deel and obviously your previous roles beforehand, is there any sort of standout career moments that you're really proud of and something you want to maybe share today?
Well, I think partnership is somehow a very unique area where you don't have that much big wins, not like sales, right? Just close $1 million deal.
Yeah.
That's probably just easy and measurable. I think partnerships is a lot of small wins
Yes.
accumulating, but I would say what I'm most proud of essentially is a change and a shift in terms of that whole go-to-market motion I drove previously at Thomas, where Thomas used to be a very traditional go-to-market
Yes.
where channel, right? We call it
Mhm.
channel sales and
Yeah.
direct sales are
Yeah.
separated. Where I did there is building that go-to-market motion where partnerships and direct sales go hand in hand in
Mhm.
collaboration from 0 to 1, and build that global strategic partnership in tech alliances with ATSs to begin with, and forge that relationship at every single level between companies, right? And also change the behavior of the sales team, make them buy into the value of partnering up with external partners, not think of them as competition, but more think of them as, right, ecosystem collaborator. I
Yeah.
think that mindset shift is really challenging, right? You're always kind of like pushing a ball uphill,
Mhm.
and it's a process, it's a journey. But I think at the end, right, when you look back, maybe 12, 18 months down the line and look at how much, right, that mindset has shifted inside
Mhm.
your sales team, I think that's just a true reflection of leadership, even without title, without a senior position, but that's what you have achieved, right, as a person, right? And to facilitate that, I think that's something we should celebrate. From my
Yes.
personal growth perspective, I'm definitely benefited a lot from that experience to be able to almost like a business owner inside the company. And not doing the same deal, because the deal model is every PM, right? Every partnership manager is the GM
Mhm.
of your ecosystem in markets or
Mhm.
in your vertical. You need to own the book of business. You need to own the P&L. You need to think as an owner, and collaborate and leverage all the resources you have in company to achieve your goals.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, that's definitely almost like a training ground to become entrepreneur or become
Mhm.
a GM. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you got any sort of things outside of Deal that because you mentioned entrepreneurship? Is there something that you're sort of doing outside of that at the moment?
Not yet. Deal is already entrepreneurship in the
Yeah.
daily basis, although we're already a scale up, right? Pre-IPO scale up. But I think Deal is such a young company, only 6 years
Yes.
old. We still have that gene inside of
Yes.
us. I think it's a good thing to have, right? Just move fast and break things and just test and fail, right? Really fast. And I think that's always a good thing to have, no matter how big the organization is,
Hmm.
although it also create challenges. But I think in general, that's what really makes Deel move so fast and grow so
Yes.
fast over the last 6 years.
Yeah. And you hit a 1 billion ARR, I believe I saw.
Yeah, we passed the 1 billion run rate, I think
Yeah.
last month, and we're
Yes.
probably gonna pass 1.2 in the
Wow.
year. Yeah, that's just how fast the company grows, and because
Yeah.
everybody act as entrepreneur, acts as owner, and
Hmm.
really like try to overachieve. So I think that's a great environment, really, just to train yourself. You still got the safety nets, right? You're not on your own completely,
Yes.
and you got the great product, great platform. What you need to do is just to leverage all the resources you have to drive your own book. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's obviously hitting the business at the right time. Like you've joined Deal at a really exciting time in the growth. I guess that's something obviously other women looking to get into sales. It's also picking the right business, right?
Yes, picking the right stage, I would say, right? Especially for partnerships. I think for sales, once the company have the product market fit, right, that's probably the time. Or even before they achieve product market fit, you can join. For partnerships, if the product market fit is not there, it's really, really hard to get things off the ground. You almost need to wait until there's a go-to-market fit with the product. And that's when the partnership really add value, because partnership takes longer to get a result. It should work as almost like underlying strategy for the go-to-market motions, whatever that is for the company. And if you're not getting that existing revenue motions from direct sales, and getting the patience almost right from the top to invest and to give first before you can get the return, it's really, really hard. So that would be my advice. I think depends on the function, right? Sales, it could be any stage, as long as the product, right, has a great fit with the market, then you can go. But for partnerships, you need to really choose carefully what's the right stage to go into the company.
Well, I guess, and also what products you're selling. If you're selling something that's not good, it's going to naturally, partnerships or sales are going to both suffer. So I guess on the product side, and you've got quite a few different products at Deel at the moment, haven't you, across the business?
Right. We have now 20 plus different product modules across the board, but we put them all in one as a global workforce platform, right? So that's, I think, the beauty of Deel's business is really setting up for having a partner ecosystem, right? The potential for driving ecosystem-led growth is huge. If you think about that, not every business, not every product like this, like previously, Thomas is just SV compared to Deel. But if you think broader beyond the ecosystem, Deel is only SV compared to AWS, compared to big tech firms, right? So everybody have their own ecosystem. You could be a small fish and a big fish at the same time. But you need to think and choose carefully who should you partner with and where to invest your time, which is the most precious resources you have. That's what I learned from Deel. Is like you only have 24 hours, but there's so many things you could do, but you need to choose your battle really wisely. It's okay to fail, right? To test, but just do it fast.
You can't be in sales or partnerships and not fail. That's just life, unfortunately. You've got to be used to it. And do you have a process in place to make sure you are finding the right partners when you're in your partnership roles?
Well, we have recently established a very almost like programmatic approach when it comes to partner journey management. So we have PDM, who's basically acquiring partners and activate them from 0 to 1. We're developing ideal partner profile. In the process, we already have some ideas. So that's the beginning. And also we have a PGM, who is partner growth manager, who's basically further activating those partners and walking them through tiers. So PM in the end is more driving partner success, where we basically work with high value, right, high impact partners and go more like a high touch type of collaboration model, enable their teams and driving mutual success on both sides, and work with more strategic accounts like global integration partners, also regional in-markets professional service partners. So that's the model we're driving as a team, a global partnership journey.
Yeah, fantastic. And I wanted to move on to sort of personal development and support. Is there any sort of books or podcasts, or more importantly, mentors that you've had during your career that have made a big impact?
I would say, I think mentor in general, right, plays a critical role, whether this mentor is in your company or outside your company. I do find whoever you trust, whoever also trusts you, believe in you, plays a huge difference in your career. And I was very lucky to have kind of like 2 mentors in my career stage so far when I enter the sales world. One is, I mentioned, the first client I work with, later become my boss at Thomas International. He is a chief sales officer, and he's the one who actually makes me feel like, actually working sales quite cool, right? Become a sales leader can be so great, because he's just a great empathetic leader, and he really invests in every team member. So he makes you feel like you're so valued and so belonged in a team. So I think that's really when leadership makes a difference, right? And when you see it's motivating and inspiring to become a sales leader or a revenue leader. And then the other one is alum. I recently developed into a mentor. So he was a top voice in partnerships on LinkedIn, and he happened to be alum of London Business School of the same program, just 15 years ahead of me. So yeah, he has gone through all the different type of sales leader role, like CRO, right? Partnership director at bigger companies, and now freelance more like a partner advisor. But I think all the advice I could get from him, because we're not in the same company, is also super valuable, because there's no interest, right? There's nothing basically, right? We need to worry about. It's more about if I need some advice, I can ask him, right? If I have some ideas, or if I'm not decided where to go, I can always just go to the trusted advisor, and maybe I can help him in the future as well. So building that relationship with people that you find just motivates you, right? Who has the right experience and who has the maybe potential network to introduce you to, that's just super valuable. Listening to books and podcasts, right? There's so many. And in the end, I think it's the people who makes the difference, and they will give you the right direction in terms of which skills you should develop, what books you could look into, what podcasts you can listen to. But if you don't know the person, right, if they don't know you, you don't know them, it's really hard to get that personalized advice as well. I always believe in like personalized learning, because everybody, the skill set is different. One person's strength is not another people's weakness. Right. So if you find the people who can actually educate you, motivate you, mentor you on the weakness you want to develop into strengths, that's I think the best partnership or the mentorship you could have.
Definitely. And did you go and find them, or did they find you, or was it a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both, right? I never thought like I want to develop this person into a mentor. It's almost like very naturally develop into a mentorship relationship. It's just because we had those work, right, related tasks that build the trust, or we have this more like a personal conversations that build over time, that just makes it feel more and more natural that it's a very good relationship to have, just to keep the conversation and keep the connection. And I think it's a mutual beneficial way, because even though I'm much younger than my mentors in terms of experience and career journey, I can also share back whatever I found, right? I learned at school, also in the workplace. And I already seeing like I can help my mentor when it comes to maybe helping the even younger generation, the fresh graduate who want to explore careers in this field or careers in the field I've worked at, right? It's just more like paying forward. It's all about paying forward. Maybe they got help from people like themselves when they were at my age. So I feel it's more like a paying forward motion here.
Yeah. And would you say, because your mentors have to see something in you, right, for them to give their time, because I'm sure they're very busy. Is there any sort of key attributes that you could share, maybe the women that are watching this, that that maybe allowed you to get them as mentors? Or anything that you're doing you think that's them going, yeah, I can see Yabing, I can see that she's actually someone worth putting that time into?
Yeah, I think trust are built on very, very small things. Maybe just think about anything you could help them with, right? And deliver that again and again, right? I think that just very naturally build up that trust. For example, if I recommend a book to my mentor, right? And that actually helps them to solve a problem, right? That just really makes that relationship more like mutually beneficial. And also, as I mentioned, if they need help and I can help in whatever way to help with their network, it's just the natural flow of exchange of value add. And also just do things together, right? Having a in-person meetup, right? having a brainstorm in terms of like what they're working on or what I'm working on. Maybe you just naturally bounce off ideas where you can support them. Just invite them to, for example, for the alum, I invite them to social events that we're having at school. They want to connect with the school community after graduating 15 years later. And it's always beneficial to build that connection. You're almost working as a bridge, right? Connecting dots between different people, different groups. So I think it's just a very natural give and get relationship, but you always need to think about whatever relationship you want to build, what's the give part you can give first. And I always believe in giving first before asking for anything. And in the end, good karma will come back, right?
Yes.
If you keep giving, right, not expecting anything, people can feel that. But if you give with the mentality thinking about, oh, I want to get something back immediately, or maybe I will just ask something in return after this call, that's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on our sort of final subject today, we're going to sort of talk around the advice for women in sales. Is there any sort of particular advice you would give to women who are looking to start in a sales industry or a partnerships industry? Anything you would give them as a mentor, should we say?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to know about yourself, like learn about self. Like not everyone is suited for a career in sales. I would say it really depends on your personal profile, right? You need to think whether you are result oriented, goal oriented. Do you work well under pressure, right? How good is your communication skill, for example, right? How fast you can build trust with people and relationship, and what drives you as well, right? Some people are motivated by money or by recognition. Some people are actually not. So women can work well in any function, I would say, not just sales, but the first step is really understand what's your strength. I think that's a huge difference when it comes to men and women. I would say it's like man is almost like encouraged from the boy stage on discovering the strength, work on the strength. But women somehow the upbringing is always about being perfect. But it's not the same when it comes to the real world, when it comes to professional world. Done is better than perfect, whatever function you work at, right?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that point you made earlier about not being scared to fail. I think, like
Yes.
you said, you just do it, and if it doesn't work out, it's not a problem. And I think getting out of that sort of scared to be fail culture is a very powerful tool to have in your locker as a salesperson or in partnerships. And talking about difficult times, I think this is probably quite an important question. But how do you stay motivated, sort of during the tough months or the slow periods or times where things aren't going your way? Because no matter if you're in sales or partnerships, there's always going to be the down days. Unfortunately, that's part of sales. But how do you deal with that?
I think you have to face that almost as a way, as a cliche say, right? Dream big, but act small. But I think you need to think about what's your long-term goal as well, right? What doesn't work out here, you also learn lessons, and you learn like what could potentially work out in your next stage of journey. And whatever thing you do, not just sales, right? If you're a GM, if you're a CEO, if you're a C-suite leader, I think you're also under pressure to deliver, right? And that pressure and that difficulty and the challenge you face actually are even higher. So if you really want to become a great leader in whatever function you're working at, this is basically the mentality you need to have, right? Just to have that resilience. And I think, as we discussed, running, and especially running long distance and marathons, just give me that mentality. I know I can conquer whatever obstacles in front of me because I've done really tough things in real life, right? For long hours. And running business or running partnerships or sales is very similar to running marathons.
Yeah.
In many stretches, you feel painful, right? But what motivates you to finish the race is really why you're doing this, right? What do you want to achieve? And also when you actually finish it, it's just immense sense of accomplishment, right? When you close a big deal, when you close a big partnership, right? When you build a long-term relationship, you not only gain the monetary reward, but also for me, partnerships give me more relationship reward. It's every partner that I've worked well with, I become friends with them, right? That's your social capital as well. Your network is your net worth. In the end, you're building your network. Wherever you go, your network will support you. And the more people know about you, know about your good work, the more well equipped for you to grow in whatever way.
Yeah, so it definitely sounds like the fact that your marathon, you're running, that's something that really helps you kind of get through those kind of tough days, basically, is having that well, they say there's a lot of science, isn't there, between people that have performed at high levels of sports that tend to do very well in sales because of that competitiveness. But like you said, it's just that drive, it's that
Yes.
I'm going to keep going, I'm not going to keep stopping, which is
Yes.
exactly what sales is all about.
Yes, I think what we say in running is the runners never quit.
Yeah.
It's probably we can put that in sales, right? Sales people should never quit. If you fail in one deal, it doesn't matter. You can just pick up your next one, but you need to pick carefully. Same, if you really want to achieve your personal best in running, right? You won't get that ideal conditions all the time. Actually, the reality is you will only get it once in a while. But when you get that opportunity, you just need to be all in and do it well. And then keep going, right? Keep showing up, right? Because consistency is what really matters in the end. If you keep doing the good work, keep driving the right input, you will get the output ultimately. Just like training for marathon race, you need to train for months before you actually get to run the race to see the result. And before you start, you still don't know like what result you will get. Will you be able to achieve a personal best? Will you be able to get a better time? It really depends on the condition of that race day, what you get. But if you have done your hard work, you have put in the effort in the process, I think in the end, whatever you achieve, it's gonna reward you, right? Because that's the outcome already you achieved during the process. What you get out actually is a medal or a race result. It's almost like a cherry on the top. You could get a better time or not, but you already achieved a great progress in the process. Even if you don't get it in this one race, ultimately you'll get it in the next one. So that's
Yeah.
my mentality as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think persistency, consistency, and that obviously blends very nicely into marathon running and also into sales and partnerships. The last question I always like to ask is, um, when in sales, obviously there's a lot of misconceptions around sales and how people understand it. And I think that's also been a big blocker for a lot of women because it's when they apply for a job, if they don't tick every single box, they don't apply. There's like statistics behind that. So is there any kind of misconceptions that maybe you can help the women that are watching this sort of episode that maybe can feel a bit safer that actually I can get into career in sales?
Yeah, I think it's just, again, it's like do is better than perfect. Just apply for jobs whenever you feel like you already hit 60% or 70% of the job
Agreed.
requirement.
Hmm.
But in reality, I understand, like, even for me, sometimes I need to like feel like I hit at least 90% of the requirement to apply for job, and also really advocate for yourself because this is skills for life. Again, if you really want to be a good sales, you need to be able to defend yourself, right?
Hmm.
Advocate for yourself, just
Hmm.
like you advocate your company's product. That's
Yes.
the only way, right? If you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in the product, how can you sell?
Absolutely. And is there any sort of final message that you'd like to leave?
Well, I think um, in general, I think this is a. I would say I would encourage every woman, every young professional, right? Just really to think about your strength before you take on any career track or job,
Hmm.
and keep going. I think it's just like open to new opportunities. Don't feel fearful when it comes to changing function or changing career. You will find surprise, I would say good ones at the end, as long as you keep running what you enjoy doing, and you will get something outside of it. And also, right, remember to build connections, build your allies, build your champions along the way. So I think, yeah, just keep an open mind and keep going. And I think just believe in yourself as well. Um, don't be afraid of any obstacles that the society put on us. I would say you sometimes, right, it's a race, not you against others. It's almost like you against the perceptions or the restrictions or the frames you put around yourself, right? Just be free on your minds and be bold to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Your mind is sometimes your best friend or your biggest enemy, and
Yes.
it's getting past that. And like you said, just taking that next step forward, even if you're 60-70% close to it, is applying for that job and just taking that first step. I could not agree with anything more than that. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the Women in Sales episode today. It's been lovely having you, and thank you so much for going through your experiences and what you've done at current role and previous roles. Thank you so much.
Thank you.